October 27, 2018. A day we'll never forget.
Hold a perimeter, automatic weapon, gunshots at the front.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
11 souls lost inside the Tree of Life Synagogue in Squirrel Hill.
2 additional people rescued. Negative contact with our actor.
Victims of a horrific hate crime.
I can't be mad at God. I have to trust, even though I don't get all the answers in my lifetime.
5 years later, we're hearing new stories from the survivors.
Through my wrist here.
Oh my gosh, that's where
It came out the top.
Oh man.
And it just, everything on top just shattered everything.
New stories from the families of those killed. Some talking publicly for the very first time. And incredible stories of perseverance and hope. Like how one ring, worn by Rose Malinger, now is the symbol for a new chapter for generations to come.
This ring symbolizes my future with Tom, but it also symbolizes my family.
Plus, a look at the future for the Tree of Life Synagogue, as those working on the project share their plans.
It's very exciting, actually. What we're putting together is going to be an iconic new institution.
Those stories and more on Overcoming Hate, the Pittsburgh Synagogue shooting, 5 years later. Now, here are Channel 11 anchors David Johnson and Lisa Sylvester.
Thank you for joining us as we take this time to remember the past, but also look ahead to the future. It's hard to believe, yet sometimes it's not, that 5 years have passed since the tragedy inside the Tree of Life Synagogue in Squirrel Hill.
Yeah, I remember that day very, very vividly. David, you and I were actually out there together reporting that day. It was raw, it was raining, almost as if the weather was in mourning with us. And throughout this show, we're going to bring you some remarkable stories of resilience from that day, like this ring, a grandmother's love, a family's legacy, and hopes for the future. Plus, an officer shot during the rampage, walking us through the 2 seconds that changed his life forever.
We will also give you a look at the renderings for the restoration project on the synagogue building itself and the memorial going in there as well.
We begin, though, with a look back on that day 5 years ago. We went on the air before 11 o'clock that morning and stayed on until close to midnight. Here's just some of our coverage.
There is a SWAT and police presence in this neighborhood on Murray near Shady in Squirrel Hill. An active shooting situation at Tree of Life Synagogue out there.
There's a huge police presence out here. We've seen police officers running with their guns. We saw SWAT team members here. We've heard constant sirens coming to this area.
We're not taking any questions. This is a brief message we need to get out to the community. A short time ago, we were dispatched to active gunfire at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Squirrel Hill. Right now, we have multiple casualties. We're working the situation. It is imperative that the neighbors in the community surrounding the Tree of Life Synagogue stay in their houses and shelter in place. Do not come out of your home right now. It is not safe.
What I'm seeing here, which is a heavy, heavy police presence, I'm at the corner of Murray and Northumberland, very busy area of Squirrel Hill. And as you've been mentioning, and I've seen tactical, I'm seeing a group of them right now, in fact. There's half a dozen, full tactical gear.
And I can tell you, at this minute, according to my law enforcement source, the suspect is surrendering to police inside the building, inside the synagogue. Police have him cornered, and apparently he is surrendering right now to law enforcement authorities.
This is an incredibly sad day for all of us, and have some things that people want to report on, but I just want to say on behalf of everybody in Pennsylvania, these were our neighbors. These are fellow Pennsylvanians, and this is an incredibly sad day. I want to thank the first responders for doing what they have done to make us safe.
You sounded very emotional. A hand was placed on your shoulder. Tell me how you feel right now.
It's a very horrific crime scene. It's one of the worst that I've seen.
And here you're seeing tactical teams come through. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. So this is a graphic example of how serious this situation was right here. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for all you do. Yeah, the picture tells the story right there, doesn't it?
If you just take a look over my shoulder, you can just see just the hundreds of people who have decided to come out in the rain and in the cold to come and mourn, to come and pray with one another. I spoke with a woman here in the crowd earlier today, and she tells me an attack on one faith is an attack on all faiths.
It was, Catholics and Protestants, so many others coming together say that hate will not win, and we stand with you, Jewish community, and we will stand against hate. So this did not surprise me, the spirit of what we saw in that vigil tonight.
Yeah, and I should just mention really quickly, you can see that there's still police presence here outside the synagogue. We are now going into hour 12, I guess, at this point.
Tonight, Pittsburgh is showing we are stronger than hate. Take a look at this. This is from Twitter. The yellow diamond on the iconic Steelers logo changed to the Star of David. This image used along with the hashtag Stronger Than Hate.
Just an unbelievable, horrible day. And these are the 11 people who were killed inside the synagogue. Brothers and spouses, family and friends. They were Joyce Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, Rose Malinger, Jerry Rabinowitz, and brothers Cecil and David Rosenthal.
Along with husband and wife Bernice and Sylvan Simon, Daniel Stein, Melvin Wax, and Irving Younger. And the widow of Westview dentist Richard Gottfried has never spoken publicly until now. She told us that day she lost her husband and best friend inside the Tree of Life kitchen.
And Richard's connections ran deep inside the synagogue. Channel 11's Nicole Ford sat down with his widow and two sisters, one who's a twin, to talk about the loving, kind man they remember.
Standing over 6 foot, Richard Gottfried's presence was big. But it was the size of his heart that brings smiles to his sisters' faces.
He was just a wonderful human being, but he wasn't showy about it. You would have to get to know him to know just how deep his generosity was, and his kindness, and the way he saw things.
Surrounded by 3 sisters, one even a twin.
Every birthday I would say, so how does it feel to be whatever age we were? I'm not going to know for another 11 minutes.
Laughter always filled their home and lives. So it was only with open arms they welcomed Peg when she married their beloved brother, joining this family of strong women.
She's important to us, too.
So, yes.
So she's family. She'll always be family, no matter.
Now she's just another sister.
Just what he needed, more girls.
Married 38 years, co-owners of a dental practice in Westview. This couple had a full life still ahead.
We were probably going to work just a little bit longer and then retire and finally enjoy the fruits of our labor. And it wasn't heavy.
The air heavy, aligning with Peg's heart as she thinks back to what she's lost. Support, strength, partnership, and love.
I would have an incredible privilege of something or other, and then I would realize that it was because he was dead that I had this privilege, and that was really hard for me to accept until I had a spiritual director who said to me, that's what Jesus did. He died for you.
Faith is the thing she leans on the most, and a compliment to her late husband as he was a practicing Jew and she a devout Catholic.
I can't be mad at God. I have to trust. Even though I don't get all the answers in my lifetime, I know that God always will take bad things and make it even better than it otherwise would have been.
5 years truly feels that long to this family. While his chair is empty, their hearts are not.
For me, it's all about honoring the memory rather than wallow in the loss. So I think that as long as we're living our life and not letting anything stop us, that's what he would have wanted.
So Carol continues to go to each and every Pitt home football game, as the two have done since 1970.
It was the thing that we did together. I really felt like I had them all to myself at that time. I didn't have to share them with anybody.
As the brother who inspired her to walk back into her Jewish faith, she couldn't stay away, even as a survivor of the synagogue shooting herself.
Well, the next week, I was back in services. It's what I wanted to do, but it's also what he would have wanted me to do. And I've taken over doing some of the things that he did. I mean, I could never fill his shoes.
For Peg, she sees Richard in the wine from his extensive cellar, to the shuttered doors of their once thriving practice. But looking back at the pictures, she finds comfort in the motto he chose to live his life by.
And it really came from his mother. She would always say, I'm glad that I did it while I could. And so Rich lived that way too. Let's do it while we can. Thank God that he felt that way.
And for Debbie, the bond of a twin is never broken.
Mom always said, you know, your friends may come and your friends may go, but you always have your family.
And Richard's legacy is forever woven into the tapestry of this family. And through them, his memory lives on.
Many families told us they did not want to talk publicly over the last 5 years because they were worried that it would jeopardize their chance for justice.
And it took 4.5 years for federal prosecutors to get Robert Bowers to trial, more than 3 months in court for a jury to sentence him to death. The trial was a grueling, emotional roller coaster for all involved, with new details about the horror and the heroism that played out inside the synagogue in 2018. We learned how people who went to a Saturday morning service had to take cover, run and hide, some in closets, others on the floor, seeing friends and loved ones killed. We saw the incredible rescue of Dan Legger carried out by SWAT paramedics, and we heard the numerous exchanges of gunfire with police. We learned how SWAT members pinned Robert Bowers down in a dark room, saved colleague Tim Mattson, who was honored at the State of the Union for his bravery, and ultimately took Bowers into custody, carrying him out on a stretcher, injured but alive. The jury did not believe Bowers' defense that he had schizophrenia or was delusional, and our reporters in court never saw Bowers appear remorseful, even once. The jury sentenced him to death for killing 11 innocent Jewish worshipers, shooting 4 Pittsburgh police officers, and preventing the practice of religion. An appeals process could take several more years, and if the appeals fail, Bowers will remain on the federal death row in Indiana. Justice, as families, survivors in this community have learned, is a deliberate but slow process. One of those families is pointing the way forward, honoring their loved one in the most beautiful way.
Every day when I put the ring on, it's like a part of her is coming with me.
The emotional story of this ring, a promise fulfilled, and a push to bring happiness back to Tree of Life.
They were known to nearly everyone in Squirrel Hill. We'll show you how 2 brothers' generosity in life is now continuing after their deaths. Plus,
I appreciate life every day and the things that I do have in it.
That's the officer seen in this body cam video played in court. The first officer wounded that day. He's also the first one who encountered the gunman. He tells us about that and his recovery, that part of the story, when we come back.
Four police officers suffered injuries in the shootout at the synagogue. SWAT officer Tim Mattson, who confronted Bowers inside the building, has had 25 surgeries since that day.
And Officer Dan Mead was the first officer to encounter Bowers just outside the synagogue doors. He got shot in the hand, injuries he will have for a lifetime. Mead sat down exclusively with Channel 11's Rick Earl to talk about his recovery and the justice served for the victims.
I have an officer calling shot in the hand.
Actors in custody. This is going to be investigated from here on out.
You know, it's over and I'm done with it. So you can move on now.
Yeah, like a load of bricks off your back. Just something that just sits back there.
A relief.
It is. And I'm sure it is for a lot of the families.
A feeling of relief for Pittsburgh police officer Dan Mead after a jury in August sentenced Robert Bowers to death for the murders of 11 worshipers at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Squirrel Hill 5 years ago.
What was your reaction when the verdict came in?
I think the jury made a good decision there. I mean, there was only 2 decisions, and I think they made the right one.
Mead and his partner, Mike Smida, were the first to respond to the shooting that October morning. While approaching the glass door, Mead saw someone inside.
I could see somebody in there.
You could see him? Okay.
It was smoky glass.
Okay.
And I mean, it was me to him away.
And the next thing you know?
He just started shooting. And didn't expect it, but...
Yeah.
And until I felt this, and then it went up in the air like a piece of clothes on a laundry line.
Uh-huh.
And then I looked down, and it was dangling there.
During the trial, prosecutors played this emotional police body cam video of Mead after he was shot in the hand.
Come on, get out of here!
When they played it when I was down there, and boy, the swear word, I just was unleashing on that thing.
Total perimeter, automatic weapon, gunshots at the front.
Yeah, it went through my wrist here.
Oh my gosh, that's where
it came out the top.
Oh man.
And it just, everything on top just shattered everything.
And that's right where it hit right there.
Yeah, right, it come in here and went through the top.
Mead has had 8 surgeries on his hand. While he still can't close it all the way, he knows it could have been a lot worse.
That's a moment that changed your life forever.
It sure did. It's, I appreciate life every day and the things that I do have in it. And I still think to this day, I mean, 1 or 2 seconds, me or my partner wouldn't have been here.
And Mead says not a day goes by that he doesn't think about the 11 innocent victims who gathered to worship on that day.
I signed up for this job, but those people didn't. They're going to church, knowing what could possibly happen when you take this job. You learn that stuff from the academy.
Mead says he's thankful for all of the support from his friends and family, his co-workers, and especially the victims' relatives who embraced him when he testified at the trial.
They were very united.
Yes.
And just made myself and
your partner and
yeah,
all the guys there.
Anybody that was down there just feel like we're all one, and it's just an awesome feeling.
Mead joined the force later in life at the age of 43 after working as a carpenter. His father was a Pittsburgh police officer, and he wanted to follow in his footsteps.
Do you miss the job?
I sure do. Yep.
You wish you could return?
I sure do. Yeah.
You would go back?
I would.
5 years later, and still off the job on disability, Mead has come to the realization that the prospects of returning are slim.
I'm a pretty simple person. I mean, and I understand my what I can do and I can't do, and it's frustrating, but you get used to it. And it's been that many years that you get used to it, and I just move on. And all I want to do is be happy and be able to pay my bills and what have you. That's it. That's all I ask for.
Mead has received medals, plaques, and valor awards that he displays at home. But he told Rick he doesn't consider himself a hero.
Yeah, he says he was just a guy doing his job that day. He also told us about the large number of cards and letters of support that he has received and that he has saved them all. Another survivor of the shooting used the verdict to spread awareness.
Audrey Glickman hid in a storage room among bags of clothing before police were able to rescue her. And she told Channel 11's Nicole Ford this tragedy should be a starting point for more conversations about tolerance and love.
To persevere or escape from a life-challenging situation is the definition of survivor. But Audrey Glickman is so much more. Just look into her eyes and you see her strength in the face of adversity.
The book is written and it's like completing a diary. You close up the book and you go forward from there, but you always take away the lessons that you learn.
Walking away from the synagogue shooting in 2018, her life is forever changed. But this 5-year journey to justice was never easy.
This wasn't just shooting up a room. This was individual murders of people that we loved in the ugliest possible way. That's something that we can't just accept as a part of current society.
In an average year in the United States, 25,000 hate crimes involve a firearm. 69 a day, according to statistics. That's why Glickman wanted to see a trial.
Really seeing the criminal and what was behind what he did.
It helped to tell the full story, a story she wants no one to forget. In fact, she hopes it brings awareness to the public.
We need to have a more universal society, a more American point of view where everyone is welcome, where we don't have a dearth of liberty that we can't share it with immigrants who want a piece of liberty.
That there's no room for hate in her heart, and this should mark a turning point for change at the legislative level.
All right, Nicole, thank you very much. A passionate message from a survivor. Well, still to come, he didn't run from the gunfire, he ran toward it. That's because Dr. Jerry Rabinowitz always thought of helping others first. How he's still helping future doctors in Pennsylvania.
This ring on Rose Malinger's finger when she died is now the foundation for a beautiful and bittersweet gift, one that can bring joy back to the Tree of Life.
This one moment is not going to take away from all of the future simchas and happiness that are going to be happening at the Tree of Life.
It's a story of grief and hope and honoring a matriarch in the best way possible. Plus,
we can't change what happened, but we can pass their amazing qualities on to people.
Love Like the Boys, the campaign spreading kindness in our area in memory of two brothers who knew only love. That's next. Among the people lost inside the synagogue that day were two brothers, men it seemed everybody in Squirrel Hill knew. I knew them, saw them all the time. David and Cecil Rosenthal had intellectual disabilities, but nothing held them back from showing love for others.
Channel 11's Jennifer Tomazik sat down earlier this year with the Rosenthal sisters, who are sharing their legacy through a campaign of kindness.
Cherished pictures and memories of the Rosenthals.
Cecil was the oldest, then Diane, then David, then myself.
That Diane and Michelle are sharing about what shaped their brothers, Cecil and David's legacy of
genuine kindness and true love for people.
Cecil and David were the kindest individuals you could ever meet. We just have fun and fond memories. David was a trickster and Cecil loved a good party.
Much of their childhood was spent at the Tree of Life Synagogue, a place they continued to go every Friday night and Saturday morning into adulthood.
So that was a place of love and feeling part of a community, and it was a safe place.
Where Cecil showed kindness as soon as you walked through the door.
It was important for Cecil to welcome people into the synagogue. That's what he was known for.
And David?
Very neat. So he was inside making sure the books were lined up.
Tragically, David and Cecil spent their last moments at the Tree of Life, where the brothers were among 11 Jewish people killed while worshiping on October 27, 2018.
We were just trying to get through those days.
Part of what helped were the people that came into Michelle and Diane's lives because of their brothers.
They surrounded our family. They knew Cecil and David. As Michelle said, people literally came out of the woodwork and had to tell their story. Well, I met your brother here, or I see your brother here.
The boys, as their family affectionately calls them, spread their zeal for life in every corner possible in Squirrel Hill.
It was love at its purest, no judgment, no bias.
And that's become the basis for their Love Like the Boys campaign. Maybe you've seen the hashtag around.
It's a very, very simple lesson. Just be kind and random acts of kindness, little things like helping someone across the street or paying for someone at Starbucks just because you want to.
The campaign is working.
I woke up to this text. I'm rocking my Love Like the Boys t-shirt today and thinking that years later, Cecil and David still have a positive effect on the world.
And they're helping people in Pittsburgh with intellectual and developmental disabilities through Achieva. The nonprofit supported Cecil and David for 20 years with housing and employment, and now it helps manage a memorial fund in their names.
people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are encouraged to apply for things like lessons or technology, even vacations.
So it's a great way to keep their memory alive and to help others to have fun and feel like they belong in the community.
Just like you said, Cecil and David did.
Just like Cecil and David did.
We can't change what happened, but we can pass their amazing qualities on to people and ask the world to live like they did and hence love like the boys.
Cecil and David Rosenthal's legacy of love and kindness, one simple act at a time.
Just two beautiful souls whose light will shine on. We have more information on the Love Like the Boys campaign and the memorial scholarships at Achieva.
You can find all of it on our website, WPXI.com. Still to come, a sneak peek at the restoration plans for Tree of Life. The unique blend between the old and the new, and the part of the building that will be the first of its kind in the country.
And this ring on the finger of Rose Malinger when she died, now a symbol of hope for her family.
I've always said we can't change what happened, that we have to move forward and enjoy every day, and that's what my mother would have wanted.
How the family wants this ring to bring happiness back into the Tree of Life.
You may think that, this put an end to the Tree of Life, but it hasn't. This is only the beginning.
It's one family's emotional plan to make sure their loved one didn't die in vain and that happiness comes back to the Tree of Life. And that plan centers around one very special ring.
Yeah, Rose Malinger was 97 years old, but very young at heart. She promised that one day her rings would go to her granddaughters, and that is what's happened.
The engagement ring Rose was wearing when she died now is her granddaughter's engagement ring. And as the family told Channel 11's Nicole Ford, this is just one step to bringing joy and happiness back to the Tree of Life.
Every day when I put the ring on, it's like a part of her is coming with me.
How can one ring symbolize so much? Love, strength, hope, and family. This is the story of the eternal love of Rose and her husband Morris that started with this ring in 1950. As the sun sets on a quaint Squirrel Hill street, one home is built on more than just a sturdy foundation.
My mom and her sister would be sitting on the porch, kind of like me and him are doing now.
Where walls hold the greatest memories.
We'd be having dinner here, and he would sneak in, and all of a sudden my mom would sit here and it would scare the heck out of me.
Because she couldn't hear her coming. The TV would be so loud.
A place where stories are passed down like heirlooms.
Anytime we would play games, she would shout out the answer, even if she wasn't on that team. So that was a problem, but we tried to work through it.
Each generation adding its own chapter to the Malinger family history. At the center of each moment, one woman, Rose, the matriarch.
I'm so much like my mother that... Go ahead, you can tell them.
When we knew we were going to be grandparents, we were deciding, do they want us to call us Grandma or Grandpa? And Andrew did not want to be called Booby because in her mind there's only one Booby, and that was her mother.
97, only by age.
There, she's there, so we're singing Spokane.
And enough love to fill the room.
We would just sit on the porch and watch the sunset and look at all the neighbors walking by and just sit here and talk about anything. And it made me have a love for family that I don't know if I would have ever had if we didn't sit on this porch at night all the time.
Sitting in that spot, granddaughter Amy Malinger can't help but reflect on one of the last conversations she ever had with her bubby.
She just told me, you're gonna get one ring and Hillary will get one ring, and that's that. And I said, okay. And she's like, yeah, but when I'm gone. And I was like, okay, but that's not gonna be for a while. And she was like, yeah, but when I'm gone, you'll get it. I was like, okay, bubby.
No one could imagine the horror that would happen just weeks later. Rose was one of the 11 people murdered inside the Tree of Life Synagogue. Her wedding ring still firmly on her finger as she lay dying next to her daughter, Andrea. That unbroken circle, a representation of 68 years of love for her husband and the family they created together.
It was one of the first items we got back. They gave us a bag of her jewelry to kind of identify her. And it was definitely hard to see it the way that it was at the time, and not see it on her and know that I'll never see it on her again. I think that was the hardest part for me.
5 years later, the sparkle of that diamond, now on Amy's finger, signifies so much more than a ring.
This ring symbolizes my future with Tom, but it also symbolizes my family and what he's coming into and what I'm going into as well.
A man bravely stepping into this big family.
I came here and I was pretty overwhelmed for probably the first year. It's incredible the way their family is. Our family now.
Oh. Tom knows the foundation of love was built from a woman he wishes he'd met.
From what everybody tells me, there's a large part of her in Amy, and I'm very lucky to know that.
That made me cry.
The Malinger house sits just blocks from another house full of memories for this family, the Tree of Life Synagogue.
My aunt and Andrea's family were a pew or two apart at the Tree of Life Synagogue. And my aunt asked Andrea, you mind if my nephew called? And Andrea said, okay, and that's how it started.
The beginning of Andrea and Ron's story. It led to their wedding, children, and a new generation of bar and bat mitzvahs.
You may think that, this put an end to the Tree of Life, but it hasn't. This is only the beginning. And this one moment is not going to take away from all of the future simchas and happiness that are going to be happening at the Tree of Life.
For the Malingers, that will start with this couple's walk down a new aisle.
I think that getting married in a place where she lost her life is something that seems a bit morbid at first, but then you think about this was the last place that she took her last breaths, and maybe the last thing she was thinking about was her family. So having her family back together in this place would kind of make her happy again.
I've always said we can't change what happened, that we have to move forward and enjoy every day, and that's what my mother would have wanted. I mean, she's watching down and she's seeing all the joy.
Much like this ring, the Malingers remain unbroken.
I hope they have as good a marriage as my parents had, and I think they will.
It's a love story that leads back to Rose and back to the center of their hearts.
The family told Nicole that they know it will take some time before the building is ready to host that wedding.
But they are simply willing to wait. They want to bring happiness back to the place that meant so much to Rose. The restoration plan for the Tree of Life building is large and impressive.
It's really a pretty aggressive, inspirational plan to take what was a very dark moment and inspire future generations.
The path of light designed to show a rebirth while remembering the lives lost.
In one of those lives, a doctor who ran toward the gunfire instead of away from it.
He really dedicated his life to service, to thinking about the needs of others. But what he taught us is how that creates so much joy in your own life.
The way he's still inspiring and helping future doctors in Pennsylvania. When the shooting started inside the synagogue, one congregant ran toward the shots, not away. Dr. Jerry Rabinowitz was trying to help anyone who may be hurt.
Rabinowitz was a well-known doctor in our community, one who made caring for others the sole focus of his work, and that has continued even in his death. Once again, here's Channel 11's Jennifer Tomazik.
Dr. Jerry Rabinowitz got his education in medicine at the University of Pennsylvania in the 70s. A page on the school's website dedicated to the Squirrel Hill doctor says he went on to complete his residency in Pittsburgh, where he established a family practice. The page notes that he was doing what he loved, helping the wounded, when he was killed in the synagogue shooting in 2018. He was a member of the Dor Hadash congregation and was worshiping at the Tree of Life. Shortly thereafter, Dr. Rabinowitz's family went to the Perelman School of Medicine at Penn to create a scholarship fund in his honor.
They were able to kind of come together and say what would have been meaningful to Jerry as a way to honor him.
The Jerry Rabinowitz Memorial Residency Scholarship is given annually to a family medicine resident. There's someone their peers elect who shows the most community, connection, and caring.
Really the spirit of Jerry Rabinowitz.
4 family medicine residents at Penn have earned the scholarship, including Dr. Shelley Henderson.
Absolute honor. I definitely, respect him and everything that he was able to do in a time where I know people were ostracized for it.
He really dedicated his life to service, to thinking about the needs of others. But what he taught us is how that creates so much joy in your own life.
Dr. Jerry Rabinowitz, a doctor with a community heart.
And still helping others. What a legacy. When we come back, the future of the Tree of Life building.
What we're putting together is going to be an iconic new institution for Pittsburgh that will have national and international impact.
The 3 distinct areas planned for inside. We have the latest renderings next. The history of the Tree of Life congregation in Pittsburgh is a long one that dates back to 1864. At the end of World War II, the congregation began construction on the corner of Shady and Wilkins Avenues in Squirrel Hill, where many of its members lived.
And as someone who lives in Squirrel Hill now, I can tell you that synagogue, a large part of the Jewish and Squirrel Hill communities. So that building reopening, restored and renewed is very, very important.
Channel 11's Rick Earl is back, and he talked exclusively to one of the committee members working on the restoration.
As the site of the worst anti-Semitic tragedy in American history, we feel a real responsibility to not just memorialize the victims and the event, but actually turn what was the worst tragedy into something full of hope and light.
For 2 years now, Michael Bernstein has been working on plans to rebuild the Tree of Life Synagogue. He's the chair of the Remember, Rebuild, and Renew Committee. He's not a member of Tree of Life, but he lives near the synagogue. He was home the morning of the shooting.
I thought it was hammering from my neighbor.
Yeah, and then you subsequently found out what had occurred. I mean, what was your initial thought, your initial reaction about all of that?
Yeah, I'll get emotional thinking about it. Yeah, it was just hard to wrap our head around that this could happen so close to our home.
Bernstein didn't know any of the victims personally, but grew up with Cecil and David Rosenthal, brothers with intellectual disabilities who were murdered that morning.
I knew when I heard the shots and what was happening, I know that Cecil was always the greeter. And that was the first thing I said to my son is, I hope Cecil wasn't there that day. So, and for a large measure, that's been a big part of the drive for me. It's just, such innocence and wouldn't harm anybody, but yet, the victim of a crime like that is just galling.
When Bernstein learned that world-renowned architect Daniel Libeskind, who designed the Jewish Museum in Berlin, Germany, and the 9/11 Memorial in New York City, was in charge of the project, he reached out to a friend at the synagogue.
I had been active with another organization that does work in anti-Semitism, and so when I read about Daniel Libeskind being selected as the architect, I was intrigued and reached out to a friend who was actually running the campaign at the time.
And then you got hooked in.
No good deed goes
Yeah,
unpunished.
that's right. That's exactly right.
So it's been almost a full-time job for 2 years.
Liebskin, who came to the U.S. from Poland, his parents survived the Holocaust, designed the new Tree of Life. The focal point, a path of light.
When Daniel Liebskin first went in, he drew this concept of let there be light, and from the darkness, let light emanate from the darkness. And so this...
So that was his idea.
Yeah. So the path of light begins here, and the sanctuary is right at the heart. So it starts where the Torahs are kept, in the Ark, and that's the light that emits from the...
And the new design will incorporate some of the old.
It's such a contrast.
Yeah.
In terms
this
of
is a very...
the old and the new.
Classic Daniel Liebskin approach.
The stone facade on the corner will remain, but behind it, a new modern building will emerge.
It's very exciting, actually. What we're putting together is going to be an iconic new institution for Pittsburgh that will have national and international impact.
That new building will house the Tree of Life Synagogue, the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh, a cultural center, along with rooms for events and programs, all focusing on anti-Semitism.
We're going to have a museum. It'll be the first museum in the country focused on anti-Semitism, the history, the roots of it, how it's manifesting in America today.
There will also be a memorial here at the corner of Shady and Wilkins to honor and remember the 11 worshipers.
The families have been working together with Daniel Liebskin and others to design that, and they're making good progress. We're not ready to reveal it because it's not final, but it is coming together. So that will be right at the corner. It will be what people see. It will be open to the public.
Work has already begun to prepare the site for demolition. They hope to break ground in the spring. The project will likely take 2.5 years.
It's really a pretty aggressive, inspirational plan to take what was a very dark moment and inspire future generations.
Rick mentioned the first of its kind museum. It's expected to include exhibits on past and present cases of anti-Semitism, along with ways to counter it and other identity-based hate.
Meantime, another family who lost a loved one working to continue her legacy of kindness. Joyce Feinberg was a University of Pittsburgh researcher who was born in Canada and loved traveling the world. But her family says Pittsburgh, Squirrel Hill, and Tree of Life were her home.
Channel 11's Jennifer Tomazik is back now with how her giving, inclusive, and kind spirit is spreading far beyond her family's holiday table.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
People of all faiths and backgrounds share wine and tradition.
L'chaim, to life, enjoy.
A community celebration highlighting the traditions of Seder. The important meal during Passover brings people together at the table, something Joyce Feinberg loved to do with all her heart.
So there are people from all over the world at our table all the time. She really wanted everybody to feel like they were the most special person.
Joyce Feinberg was one of those people you come across every so often and you don't forget them.
We tend to say that no matter what we do, we're not in her league.
It was the attention to detail she paid, the reliability, and
just how she transmitted kindness. Everybody said it. Everybody said it, but we knew because I'd known her for, almost 50 years. So.
Because Anthony is one of Joyce's 2 sons who shared with us how he continues to honor his mother, now almost 5 years after her death. Joyce Feinberg was one of the 11 people killed in the synagogue shooting in Squirrel Hill in October of 2018.
I remember walking around on the Tuesday thinking to myself, what just happened?
Speaking from his home in Paris, Anthony says what has helped him is strictly following the Jewish mourning practices. A year after the tragedy, he stood outside of the Tree of Life and handed out this paper that he shared with us of good deeds or mitzvahs for people to do in her honor. The other way he's continuing what he says is his mother's legacy of Judaism and kindness is passing that down to her 6 grandkids.
She was an inseparable part of their lives. She really instilled in them that same sense that I just described of a family and of treating people with respect.
Which Marnie Feinberg felt the first time that she met her future mother-in-law.
Joyce made me feel like I was part of the family almost immediately.
Especially at the holidays. Though Marnie and Joyce's other son, Howard, live in Virginia, Joyce included them in everything, and she included everyone.
Next year, may we be free.
At their Seder dinners during Passover, Marnie says Joyce invited students of different faiths that she knew from working at Pitt.
To have amazing discussion and learn about other backgrounds, and that was something that obviously has stuck with me.
Because now Marnie invites people from all over the U.S. to participate in Seder. It's a grassroots movement she started the year following the tragedy at the synagogue called Two for Seder. She says more than 1,000 families in all of these states invited 2 people who were not Jewish to their Seder in 2019. And those Two for Seder dinners are still happening to this day.
Not only does it give this counterweight to the hate and the craziness of anti-Semitism, but what we actually found in surveys when other incidents started occurring, the people who weren't Jewish had someone to talk to. And it really built that bridge of understanding.
The Center for Loving Kindness hosted this Passover-inspired community meal in Pittsburgh.
And we're inviting them to be a part of the conversation so that the values that we have can be spread, and those values are about loving your neighbor as yourself.
It makes me very hopeful that nobody else has to experience what we experienced, that we can push back on this kind of hate.
And spread more kindness and inclusiveness that came so naturally to Joyce Feinberg and continues to spread through the web of people who knew her and loved her.
What a beautiful, beautiful story. And now from honoring a wonderful mother to honoring a devoted dad.
My dad's always in me, and he's always watching over me.
A father's dedication to helping others and saving lives, now passed down to his children. That's when we come back. On that rainy October morning, 3 congregations were at the synagogue for the Sabbath. Dor Hadash and New Light also used areas in the Tree of Life building. Dan Stein and his best friend Irv Younger were members of New Light.
They attended the synagogue together and died together that day. In life, both were devoted to giving back and saved lives through blood donations. Once again, here's Channel 11's Jennifer Tomazik.
Daniel Stein.
He always had a pirate's hat on.
Was just very outgoing and made friends with anyone who he came in contact with.
He always enjoyed volunteering, and as he got older, his love for volunteering grew.
And that's the part of Daniel's story that his children, Joseph and Lee, say continues on even after death.
We experienced the worst tragedy possible.
October 27th, 2018.
The world definitely lost 11 very special people.
Their dad, Daniel, was among the 11 people killed at the Tree of Life synagogue shooting. He was a devoted member of the New Light congregation worshiping there that Saturday morning.
It's definitely a tough situation because it's just the unthinkable, but people have been very, very, very supportive.
And not just the community, but the entire world pretty much has been outstanding.
It's part of what has helped Lee and Joseph on their journey, and part of what motivates them to repay that kindness in honor of their father.
He just loved to give back. He loved baseball.
So blood drives at PNC Park became Daniel's thing later in life. He and his friend of 35 years, Irv Younger, another member who was killed at the synagogue, made a day out of helping Vitalant by giving blood and watching the Pirates. They became known as Dan and Irv by the folks at Vitalant, and they're remembered fondly.
out of all those donors, Dan and Irv really stood out because of their ebullient personalities, because of their open hearts, because they really were powerful role models for blood donation.
Kristen Lane, communications manager at Vitalant, says Irv donated blood 20 times and Dan donated blood 30 times. Each donation saves 3 lives, so the men potentially saved 150 people.
So amazing and so impressive. And as I mentioned, I didn't realize that he had donated that many times. So I'm just like, wow.
So since their dad's untimely passing, Lee and Joseph, along with other families connected with the Tree of Life tragedy, have helped with blood drives in the area.
It's amazing to see the amount of friends, family, and strangers that come out just because they have it in them as well, just like my dad, to do something special and to give of themselves and give back to strangers.
It's definitely passed down to me and my sister, and which I plan to pass down to my son.
Henry just turned 5 and only got to spend 7 months with his grandpa, Daniel, before the tragedy at the synagogue.
Yeah, we definitely want to teach Henry that the world is built on love and that there are good people in the world.
Like Daniel Stein's kids, carrying on their father's legacy.
My dad's always in me, and he's always watching over me.
Daniel Stive and Irv Younger, living on through their families and the selfless act of donating blood.
Well, it's hard to believe it's been 5 years. We were there that day. It was shocking when it happened, and to me, and I guess everybody else, still shocking to think that it could even happen in Pittsburgh.
What strikes me is that you have so much pain and so much individual heartbreak, but how they've been able to take that over the 5 years and how they have been able to give back. And time again, we hear that. And we hear that really healing that has come with it during these last 5 years.
One thing I hear from many of the people involved in this is how the community really wrapped their arms around them. Not just here in Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania, around the world. It was an amazing show of support.
And one of the things I love is that you still see those stronger than hate posters all over.
True.
And that's going to do it for us. We thank you so much for joining us.
If you missed part of this show or want to see it again, it'll run several times over the next few weeks here on WPXI Now. You can also find it on our website, WPXI.com.
And we appreciate you counting on Channel 11.